It's Jen and Carolyn. We're back this week in the first week of fall to have another Mendo Seed Talks. And we're masked up still because we're still in a pandemic. And today's topic is some basic seed saving terms. And then we're going to do some hands-on seed cleaning of some varieties that we all would be harvesting at this time of year from our gardens.
And we wanted to show you some basic equipment for screens. This is just a very inexpensive screen that you can get. It has different sized screens for different sized seed. And we'll demonstrate how to use that. And then Jen has some really beautiful
handmade
screens
that I purchased. Most of the seed libraries in Mendocino County purchased this set, and they come in different sizes. You can see that they're numbered, and some have a really coarse screen for larger seed, and some have a much finer screen for smaller seed. And you can use the various sizes and start with a bigger screen and work your way down to a fine screen to clean up small seeds. These are some of the terms that we go over in our basic seed saving classes when we are able to gather. So open pollinated variety, what is that? What is an heirloom variety? And what is a hybrid variety? And what are the differences?
It's important if you're ordering seed from a catalog and you want to save the seed, that's going to be part of your goal for the year. You'll want to know what these terms mean so that when you're ordering, you order something that can in fact be saved and come true.
So we can save from open pollinated varieties, and that's something I don't think I ever really heard about until I started saving seed. I'd certainly heard of heirlooms, certainly heirloom tomatoes. We all know what those are, but what does that really mean? They're cool, they taste great, they're big, they're beautiful, but what does it mean for a seed to be heirloom? Open pollinated varieties will grow true from the seed. So if I plant, let's say, for instance, this corn seed next year, I'm going to get a plant and a seed that looks just like this because this is an open pollinated variety. And open pollinated varieties can be old heirloom varieties, or they can be newer varieties that people are developing currently, like this one developed by Carol Deppy up in Oregon. And this one is called Cascade Ruby Gold. And so that's a seed that she developed, in the last 15 to 20 years. So that's not an heirloom, but it's open pollinated and can be saved and grown again next year.
And the open pollinated just means you have a big planting of them, and then they cross-pollinate with each other. That can be pollinated by wind, by bees, other insects. Birds can spread pollen. Bats can even spread pollen. And if all the pollen from that planting in your garden will cross-pollinate, they'll share their genetic makeup, and then you're receiving seed from quite a large number of those plants.
And it also depends on the variety. So this is lettuce that Carolyn saved from a variety that she and I both love called Merlot, which is a deep red variety. You only need 10 plants of lettuce to have enough genetic diversity. But for the corn, you need 100 plants. So when you're deciding what you're going to plant and looking at that catalog, which is so seductive and sumptuous, you want to think about the size of your garden and do I have enough space to grow 100 plants, corn, for enough genetic diversity. And these leeks, you need 35 to 50 plants, and they're biannual, and so they have to stay in the ground for more than one season. So those are all considerations to take in. So heirloom variety is a open pollinated variety. But it's old. It's got a story usually. It's handed down from generation to generation, and it can be many decades old. So like those heirloom tomatoes that we like to eat, if you are able to find the grower, they probably will know the story. I told Carolyn and Sarah a story last week about Mortgage Lifter, and that's an heirloom variety tomato, and the name basically tells the story. This particular farmer grew that variety of tomato. That variety of tomato was so popular that everybody wanted the seeds. He was able to pay off his mortgage or lift his mortgage by growing that particular tomato.
And hybrids are an intentional crossing of two open pollinated lines. They are crossed to help create a more uniform ripening crop, or for disease resistance, or even insect resistance. And those two lines will cross and create this kind of a super plant that performs better. A lot of times hybrid plants are used in vegetable production and marketing because they are more reliable, they are more uniform. But if you save the seed from that hybrid, you're going to get some plants that will be like the hybrid, some that were like one parent, and some like the other parent, and some that might even be a strange new mix of those two qualities of those two lines that came together to create the hybrid.
And frequently they're patented seeds, and we're not supposed to, legally cannot save seed from them. There are some amazing hybrids out there, you just can't save seed from them. Sun Gold cherry tomato is one of them. It's the only hybrid I grow because it's the only cherry tomato my husband loves. So
and they are really good.
They are good, and nobody's been able to dehybridize that successfully yet. Genetically engineered varieties where they take genes from a whole nother plant or a whole nother species and physically insert it into the fruit, and then a seed develops that is a hybrid. Is that how GMO works?
I'm not sure how they insert it. I don't know, but I know that you know, the Roundup resistant soybeans, they found a bacteria that was growing in the wastewater ponds of the chemical company that made Roundup, and then they inserted that bacteria, as I understand it, into the DNA of the soybeans, so that plant is then resistant to Roundup.
But they can't save the seed, and they have to do that with each generation. I mentioned that leeks are biannual. Lettuce is an annual, corn is an annual, tomatoes are an annual, and so are sunflowers. They're all annuals. That means that you plant them, they live out their complete life in one less than usually 12-month cycle. But the biannual means that you plant it,
and then it needs to go through the winter months, and then the lengthening days of spring and warmer temperatures will cause it to blossom and set seed. Leeks, onions, beets, carrots are all biennials.
Perennials are usually like your garden plants, and there are perennial vegetables,
asparagus, artichokes, and you know, tomatoes are actually a perennial in their native habitat.
Yeah, here they're annuals because it's just too cold in the winter. But you know, roses and most of your shrubbery, grapes, they're all perennials. They'll
set flower and seed annually and live for longer than 2 years.
Yeah. Self-pollinated, and what is cross-pollinated, and what does that mean? So we talked about perfect flowers. Those are flowers that self-pollinate. They have both male and female parts in them. Lettuce is one of those plants that is perfect flower and self-pollinates, and you don't have to worry about it crossing as much. Tomatoes, beans, peas,
they're perfect flowers also, but they don't have a barrier to insects or wind. like the pea flower, the sexual part is enclosed in the little boat-like petals that protect it from wind or insect pollination, for the most part. And then some flowers just are like, come on, bees.
Let's party. So cross-pollinating is where the party happens. A lot of our brassicas cross-pollinate. They're all pollinated by insects, and all of those wonderful pollinators that we want to invite into our gardens go and do their job, pick up pollen, move to the next flower and deposit pollen and pick up more pollen and keep on doing that, and so they're cross-pollinating. So you know, like if I grow radishes, they could cross with wild radish that grows on my property, or if I had several different varieties of radishes, they could cross-pollinate, and I wouldn't get the same seeds the next year. I'd get crosses, and some of those might be interesting, and it's fun to let things cross-pollinate. You know, I've grown lots of different kinds of mustards, and you know, the ones that cross-pollinate and last and come back year after year are the really strong ones. And the same thing with Swiss chard, it cross-pollinates in my garden, and it self-sows. I don't ever have to plant it. Same thing with, it doesn't cross-pollinate. The only thing that red Russian kale could cross-pollinate with is kohlrabies. And I don't grow kohlrabi, so my red Russian kale always comes true every year, and it self-sows, and I never have to plant it. And I really appreciate plants like that. So the ways that things cross-pollinate are from insects, and wind, bats, birds. So those are our basic terms. So we gave you a little bit more seed-saving knowledge. And then we've got a nice breeze today, which is great for winnowing. So we're gonna get into a little winnowing and cleaning.